Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Bernie. I'm a concept art mentor at CG Spectrum. And today we are going to draw probably a goblin. I wasn't sure at first. I was going to do a gray alien or something like that, but last minute I changed my mind, as I always or do oftentimes. So let's try that. Oh, I already started sketching actually. So cool, I hope everyone's doing well. Everyone had a good week. I'm still drinking coffee. It's 10 a.m. in the morning here in Los Angeles. Yeah, let's warm up with some sketches. Again, I'm gonna try out some goblins. And what I'm doing right now is I'm exploring some 3/4 poses. Oops. And really, the majority of the concepts that you would be doing as a professional would be in a 3/4 pose. So that's really the one you want to master. And for this goblin, we're just going to focus on the anatomy at this stage. We're not going to do any crazy outfits or anything like that. We're just going to play around with the proportions and pose and add a loincloth to him basically. And when you're doing your 3/4 pose, you do want to think about, you know, what he's doing, what this character is doing. It doesn't have to be anything crazy or unique, but just to give yourself some direction on the pose. I know oftentimes when artists are trying to think of a pose for their character, I notice that a lot of the times the hands or feet are in an awkward place where the viewer's not really sure what's going on, like what the hands are doing, right? They're just kind of floating there. That's why you want to think of basically what this character is doing. Just try different things and then make adjustments later. You do want to, again, think about what they're doing. You could have his arms crossed if you really wanted to. Or we could have him holding a tool of some sort. But in this one, I think I'll just have his arms crossed. That is covering a lot of his torso area, so I think I'll leave it open though. Hey, what's up, Mental Ray Studios? Hi, Pietro. Yeah, I think I'm gonna work on a goblin. Last minute, like I said, right before I signed on, I changed my mind. I was gonna do a gray alien, but last minute I changed my mind. It just felt like the gray alien was too subtle in terms of the forms. Especially the face, right? A lot of the facial features are subtle. So I thought it wouldn't be great for a modeler to work off of. And of course the goblin has like larger facial features, like the larger nose, things like that. So yeah, changed my mind. And sometimes, like in this case, I honestly am a little lost on what I want to do in terms of his posing. So I'm thinking about it right now. And if I can't make anything work for this certain pose, then I might just move forward with a different pose. Yeah, I don't really like this. Or I might just erase stuff out. Let's try that first before I scrap this whole thing. I think I just made the pose too straight up and down. Hey, Natasha. Hey, Trash Art. Yeah, ask any questions you want, Natasha. Hey, DDD. Hey, Margaret. How you doing? Good to have you back on. Let's see. Yeah, for this one, maybe I'll just have him holding a skull or something. Like he's showing off his, I don't know, his skull collection. Yeah, and again, I'm keeping things really rough here because I'm not really committed to any of these. I'll have one of his, maybe one of his fingers going into this eye socket of one of the skulls. Holding it like that. Natasha's asking, or saying, you tend to get overwhelmed and paralyzed with amount of references I pick. Excuse me. Is there a max amount of references you personally allow yourself? What's a good system for picking references? That's a good question. Yeah, so you do have to stop picking references at some point, right? And there are like, it seems like unlimited amount of references you could choose on online, right? So that is an issue. For myself, usually I give myself a time limit. I don't time myself literally, but you know, I'll spend maybe, you know, an hour or two, or depending on what the assignment is. And once I hit that mark of, you know, 1 or 2 hours looking for the right reference, I will just stop and move on from there. If I have to go back to find, you know, better reference at a certain point, then I will, of course. But yeah, maybe 1 to 2 hours I'll look for reference. Yeah, but definitely I could see people getting confused when they have too much reference. It can be confusing because, you know, there's just so much stuff to consider and look at. So that's why what I would do sometimes is sketch an idea first, like what I'm doing here. Just sketch out your idea first before you even look at reference. Again, without thinking too much about the design, more about giving yourself a direction. So for example, like let's say this goblin is, you know, a headhunter goblin, right? So I'll give him some kind of like, I don't know, some kind of tomahawk type weapon. Let's redraw that. And then I'll put like, give him a little belt maybe with skulls attached to it. Something like that, let's just say. Then I know what kind of reference to look for, right? I'm gonna look for skulls, I'm gonna look for tomahawk type designs. I'm gonna look for belt designs and maybe loincloth designs, right? Things like that. so that it limits the amount of reference I have to look for, right? It gives me a focused direction on what kind of references I'm going to look for. And sometimes, for example, in this situation, what I did was before I got on the stream, I Google search, just goblins. And I was just looking at a lot of different images for goblins, just scanning through it. I wasn't downloading anything, I was just scanning through the images and trying to retain anything that looked interesting to me, anything that I wanted to draw from, inspiration from, or direction from. I was just scanning through it. And I know you guys talk a lot about, how do we build up a library in our heads, right? Visual libraries, right? And that is done over time, us doing studies, artists looking at a lot of different images, doing a lot of studies off of reference, things like that, and experience just doing concepts. But the other way we could do it real quick is what I just mentioned, just scanning through images. We're trying to retain those images in your head just by looking at it, just by studying it with your eyes. You're trying to retain as much of that as possible within a short period of time. And then start your concepts. That way you already have a library in your head somewhat, because you looked at a lot of things just before you start sketching. So that's another method you can try if you find yourself wasting a lot of time just looking for reference. And again, at any point in time of working on your concept or illustration, you can go back and look for more reference if you really have to, right? Let's see. His legs look too long for me, so I'm going to shorten it up. Alright, let's put that guy to the side and do another one. And let's block this one in. Let's do more of a forward pose, just front view, and then I'm gonna have him kind of crouched down, I think. Like, he's kind of flexing a little bit maybe, or... not flexing, I guess, but hunched over a little bit. So I'm just trying to explore different poses subtly. Didn't really like that leg over there. So I personally like blocking things in like this, just because it's real quick for me to see what something could look like, the overall shape, without investing too much time in it. I think I prefer this over, when I'm exploring, at least, over just drawing. But of course I combine the two. I do combine the two. And this way I don't get caught up in the details, because that does happen often. I'm not concerned about how something looks like visual, I mean, in terms of it being a pretty drawing or anything like that. I'm more concerned about the overall pose and the shapes that I'm making. So it helps me a lot because it's easy for me to get caught up in the details. For this guy, let's do it. Let's have it so he has something like he went fishing or something and he caught some weird looking fish. Let's do that. Let's put that arm up like he's holding a fishing rod. And in this hand, we'll have it so he's holding some fish that he just caught. Yeah, let's do that. And let's put the fishing rod. I might have to adjust this. I think I wanted it to be more over his shoulder, right over it. I'm trying to remember what a fishing rod looks like. Maybe that'll be fine. All right, something like that. Let's put like a, just for fun, put a giant hook on it, maybe. Or not giant, sorry. Just oversized hook. He's a bit off balance, so I am going to select the whole thing and rotate him and make adjustments. Oops. Yeah, so I think we're gonna stop exploring at this stage and choose a design that we want to move forward with. Or maybe we'll try both. I'm always very optimistic in terms of how much I think I could get done. Or I'm just gauging the time very incorrectly, but let's start with the fishing one. That looks more different from what I've done in the past. So it seems more interesting to me. Let's try that out. Oh yeah, you like the fishing one, Pietra? Yeah, it just seems a little more different to me too. Let's do 10. Yeah, that should be large enough. Let me save it real quick. All right, cool. So you guys just saw how it didn't really take long to do this. And you know, you might have to go through several, maybe 5 or 6 or up to 10 thumbnails to get something that you're interested in or that you like to move forward with. But again, the great way to do thumbnails like this, or the good reason to do it, is you're not investing too much time on it and you get to explore a wide range of different poses, different directions, right? So from here, yeah, I agree with you, Pietro. Fantasy characters doing normal things is always interesting to look at, right? And Natasha, your question is, you're trying to figure out my personal style when it comes to digital art, and I really like cartoony horror. Any artist recommendations? Cartoony horror. Right off the bat, to be honest, I'm not sure. Cartoony horror. Yeah, not sure. Sorry about that. I'll think about it while I'm drawing. Oh, Coco. Okay. Coco. Cartoon. Oh, cartoony horror. Like, maybe it's because I'm a bit dated, right? What is that? Nightmare Before Christmas. You know that, right? That's cartoony or very stylized horror, right? Look that up. Beetlejuice, Nightmare Before Christmas. Stuff like that you could look up. I don't know if that's a very particular style, so I don't know. Anyways, so for now I'm going to sketch something in. Actually, let's just try blocking in everything. Let's just try that. See how it turns out. It's always fun to try different approaches, or even if it's not like drastically different, just to make some changes in how you approach things. Keeps things more interesting and fresh. I mean, this is line work, but you know, my brush size is basically thicker than, you know, just trying to put in a nice line drawing. He looks kind of scary right now. I'm not sure if that's really what I'm going for, but let's just go with it for now and make adjustments later. And let's think about lighting too. I didn't really think about it. I was just thinking it was coming from top down, but let's consider if I want to make it coming from the left or right slightly. I will make it come from the left side of the image. A bit from the front, so let's adjust that. Coming from the viewer's angle. So we'll make this shadow on the right a little bit larger. And we could drop this upper arm into shadow. I am going to change my brush settings a little bit so that I get some more variation and value. And I'm gonna give him a little belly. Why not? He ate a lot of fish. He'll look kind of skinny fat. Or like he has a little dad bod. Alright. And of course, as we refine or build up this image, we're going to make some adjustments. That's always necessary. I'm probably gonna give him only 4 toes and fingers. Kind of reminds me of Smeagol now that I'm looking at it. From Lord of the Rings, right? Because he has some fish. And he kind of looks like him. Yeah, now that I made adjustments to the feet, the placement of the feet look off from what I initially wanted. I wanted the foot on the left side of the image to be further back. But now I gotta try moving this foot forward so it kind of retains what I was going for. And sometimes I'll just grab the whole thing and make like parts of the image or the character to quickly just make some adjustments if I feel like something's pretty off. Like that with the foot or the leg. Just felt out of balance. Not sure. Maybe it's okay that it looks slightly out of balance if he's like midway of a movement, right? But you don't really, or I prefer not to do that, like poses in between. I want it to look like a specific pose, not any in-between pose, if that makes sense. Let's just leave it like that for now. We can make adjustments later. Never heard of Nikki. Never heard of the cowardly dog. I'll look it up after. Yeah, he has kind of a Joker smile, right? Hey, Pietro, yeah. The face turned out different from what I imagined too. I might try a couple other ones. Yeah, we all picture something different from a thumbnail, right? Human finger as a lure sounds cool too, Natasha. Yeah, we'll play around with that. For sure, there's a lot of room to play. Yeah, I think in general, the only thing I don't really, or not really happy about is the face. But I also know that that's super rough and it'll change when I, you know, start rendering it and stuff like that. So I'm trying to figure out, is it gonna look better if I start rendering it, or should I try some other things at this point? Let's just try some other ones. Why not? It won't take us too long. So when in doubt, I would say just try it out, you know? That kind of rhymed, but... yeah, if you're in doubt of something, instead of wondering, just try it out. So we will paint right over this. Oh, so I think, Pietro, you thought, let's see, in the little, oh no. Now that I'm looking at here, this could almost look like a nose. Like he's kind of looking down, but that's a little much. Let's see. Hey, Rushback. Yeah, Pietro, I'm just gonna try some stuff. Not sure, like, what would look cool, so just trying a few things here. I do have to change the position of the ears. And I'm gonna try to make it look like he's looking down a little bit. It's just slightly more. Yo, I'm always good at making things look angry and evil and pissed off. I don't know why. Everything I draw looks evil for some reason. So yeah, I'm gonna raise the ears up a little bit, see what that looks like. Maybe not. Maybe they just had to be higher up a little bit, but not pointed up. I guess that looks more interesting than the one we had before, right? Maybe it's just because it's at a 3/4 angle. Yeah, let's try that. Hey, Kara, thanks. Like the nose, huh? Hey, Natasha. Yeah, the ears. Yeah, kind of a little bit more droopy. I think it helps the composition a bit because it brings the attention down. Like the droopy ears, right? Kind of goes with the horizontal fishing pole, and it brings it back down kind of like that instead of it pointing up. Whatever, you could probably convince me of that either way, but we'll go for the droopy ears just for fun. We might add hair on them later, like, you know, different hairstyles, but for now let's just keep moving forward. You could add anything, you know, gloves on them, whatever you want, but again, for now we're going to keep it very, very simple and try to focus on the anatomy. Alright, so let's go for this direction. The face. I'm gonna colorize it just to create a base that I could work off of. And I am gonna go straight to color here, I believe. Let's see. Let's go with the typical green, but maybe we'll make it slightly more olive in color. Going back into levels to hopefully get rid of that background color. There we go. All right, let's work with this. So what I do like about this so far is the silhouette and the negative space within it, right? That's what I do like about this so far. And I like how the large forms or limbs are getting pushed in and out. So this upper arm's getting pushed back. This is coming forward. The fingers are getting pushed back. The legs are getting pushed back, the lower legs, and the thighs are coming forward. So I got a lot of push and pull going on, which will help show off the form quite a bit when I continue moving forward with this image. Let me try cutting him out real quick. Maybe it'll help with the process or the speed of this concept. That's good enough for me. Natasha saying, since being in class, I tend to scrap what I'm making to make it better. That's the point of concept art. But I've been working on something for 3 weeks and literally haven't finished. Thoughts? Yeah, so it's good that you're willing to start over and not be too tied or, to fall in love with one image, right? You do have to be able to start over, or at least a portion of your image. That is exactly part of the process of concept art. And you say you've been working on something for 3 weeks and haven't finished. That's happened to me too before with personal work, or quite a bit with personal work. Never can finish anything when it's my personal work for whatever reasons. I think again it is partially because that image has meaning to me and it's important to me somewhat. So, and I'm in love with it already, like before I even start. Like it has to be awesome. So that prevents me from finishing things. So it's probably a mentality thing. For everyone, it's probably gonna be different. For me, that's the case. Like when I notice that I can't finish things, it's because I'm emotionally tied to it. Or I think, man, this has to be awesome, or it's gonna be awesome. So it sets me up for failure. Yeah, so in my opinion, with concept art at least, quantity is what's more important. Initially, when you're just starting off with concept art, you're never gonna start off great. So you can't think, oh, this has to be my portfolio piece. This is gonna be the portfolio piece that, stops people as they're browsing the internet and, get me attention, right? Don't think like that. Just go through quantity. And eventually, down the road, you will get pieces that are awesome, right? Oops. I think that will help you finish images. Yeah. Does that make sense? Hey, Patrick. Hey, Shyla. I'm using Photoshop. So I'm kind of in auto mode right now when I'm painting. I don't think I'm great at multitasking, talking and painting at the same time. I just caught myself zoning, just doing whatever right now. And it looks like I'm kind of bringing back some of that, the values into the shadows because it was getting too dark. So I'm reconnecting with myself right now, asking myself, what are you doing right now? It is good to be intentional about what you're doing and be aware of what you're doing instead of just zoning. Like I just did. And I think sometimes when I'm not sure what to do, I'll do that a lot. I'll just zone and sit, because I feel like I still got to do something, you know, I can't just sit there and think, right, too much. I gotta at least try to get this thing going. So I'm just noodling, right? I'm just doing what I usually do, at least to see if it'll turn out, or as I'm rendering it further, it gives me ideas on a clear direction of where I want to take it at this point. And I'm just kind of smoothing out the transitions of the forms, just because I know I'm gonna have to do that anyways eventually. So why not do it now if I'm not sure what I want to, how I want to take this. I decide to knock that whole shoulder back into shadow. Doesn't mean I'm gonna get rid of all the forms there, but at least knock it back value-wise. This belly might look too simplistic, so I'm going to add some indication of abs. Everyone has abs somewhere, right? Whether it be or you know, under a layer of fat, but it's there somewhere. So we'll kind of indicate that. And his belly button somewhere down there. This time, usually I start rendering the face out, or the head. Today I did the very opposite of what I usually do. And it was kind of subconscious. I don't know why. Oh, maybe it's because I was having issues with the head earlier, right? I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to go with head, so I still felt not 100% certain. Maybe that's why I went with the body this time. Here in the shadow area, or at least in the areas that I want to read as a darker graphic shape, I am gonna still retain that dark value as a shape, but I still want there to be a value range so the forms read. So I'm gonna paint that in there, but within a very limited value range. I don't know what this looks like on your guys' screen, but hopefully this still reads. And we'll do the same on, on this side. And this leg is further back, so it will catch even less light, or less ambient light. Hey Shyla, thanks. Yeah, for now, I'm just gonna leave this as is, at least on the bottom portion, and we'll go to the head. Personally, like I was saying earlier, I really like rendering heads. So again, after my initial sketch, I will usually start with the head just to figure out the personality, the character of the you know, whatever character concept I'm working on. It does give me a lot clearer direction on how to take this thing. So let's do that. And I feel quite hesitant, to be honest, but let's go for it. It's weird. Usually with the heads, I would feel the opposite. I would be impatient and want to like render the face, but I don't know why I feel different today. So yeah, I don't know if all artists like feel the way I feel or talk or think about these things, or talk about or think about these things, but yeah, I do feel like it's really important to be aware of and honest with yourself about how you are, right? Again, your insecurities or tendencies as an artist, so that you can counter them instead of being controlled by them, right? You're able to be aware of it and admit those things and just counter those things. Figure out how you're going to counter things that prevent you from moving forward with your images, like I think Natasha was talking about. When you hit a slump, creative block, or whatever it may be with your art, there's always a reason why. And it is important, in my opinion, to figure out why that is, why you're hitting these creative blocks or whatever, you know, whatever it may be, or why you can't finish an image, right? Like we were talking about earlier. Those are things that you should think about, I think, and try to figure out why. And again, create a plan or try different things to counter them. And even after doing this as a professional for a very long time, like over 17 years now, I still, my insecurities and like things that, my tendencies are still the same pretty much. It hasn't really changed. I still feel the same way about certain things at times. I still have the same tendencies that I used to have, still hesitations. Not as bad, but still, you know, if I'm honest, they still exist. And I've just gotten better at knowing how to deal with those things. That's really the main difference, is I have, you know, things that I will do whenever I hit those things, like feeling like insecure about trying something different. I'll make a new layer. Feeling like I'm gonna mess up something, I'll make a new layer. Something as simple as that. See, that's why I have so many layers here, because I'm just, instead of fearing about making a mistake or trying something, wondering if I should try something, I'll just make a new layer and that solves the problem. I stop thinking about it. So again, that's something as simple as that I do just to help myself move forward. Is that silly, or do you guys like deal with certain similar things? Hey Natasha, you do that too? Yeah. Well, I just, at a certain point, I will, you know, group the layers or merge them. I do that. But initially, I try not to worry about it. I just, again, anything to help me move forward is what I try to do. I really don't like the way his mouth is looking, or it's just so rough that I can't tell what's going on myself. So I gotta figure that out. At a certain point, I know like a lot of artists, we will ignore the hands or the feet, right? Or a certain aspect of the anatomy because we don't feel comfortable with it, or we're just not 100% sure like which direction, how we want to represent it, right? So we'll like leave it kind of rough and ambiguous so we don't have to deal with it, or we think we don't have to, but at a certain point you have to go in there and figure things out, right? Make it visually clear. So this is the time for me to figure out that mouth and make a decision on what I want to do with it. So I'm going to try a few things. I think making his mouth larger will help with the facial features or just the forms read when it goes into translates into 3D. So I think that is what I'm going to try to do. Choose something that will read well. Maybe a slightly pointier chin. Patrick, you're asking how far would I take a concept art piece for a portfolio? Like for the rendering? That depends. So in a portfolio, concept art portfolio, you do want to represent or show off different levels of rendering, right? Which basically refer to different stages of the concept. So obviously the most rendered image would be looking like an illustration. An illustration done for marketing, for example, right? Or splash art for a game. So yeah, in that case, you want to take it as far as you can with rendering. So that basically shows the person or the company that wants to hire or is looking to hire, really how far you could render something. Which again, as a concept artist, is definitely a bonus, if not, necessary. I think it is a necessity to be able to to be able to really render something as an illustration. It's not like the number one most important thing, obviously, because then you'd be an illustrator, but it's a definite strength that you want to have as a concept artist. So most of your pieces won't be fully rendered. It'll be somewhere almost to the point of full rendering, but not quite there. So maybe the face and the upper body will be pretty rendered, but other aspects of it, like the lower body, may not have to be fully rendered, right? So most of your images would be at that level where it's not, again, completely rendered or polished, but enough where, it looks really nice, if that makes sense. And then of course you want the much rougher concept pieces where it shows you exploring and doing variations, right? And doing variants of different characters and stuff like that. And I really don't like the way this mouth is looking, so I'm gonna just paint over it real quick. I'm gonna try adding some teeth in there. See if that gives me some direction. Yeah, that looks all right. Let's do that. Oops. And another question would be, how long should I do these constant variations, like small variations, because there is no end to that either, right? I may never like something 100%, right? And at a certain point, usually I'll try 2 or 3 different quick variations on, again, like for example, in this case, the mouth. I'll try 2 or 3, and because of the time constraints I have right now that I've made for myself, I need to move forward at a certain point. So 2 to 3 variations is good enough. And again, at a certain point, you just have to make what you have work. You just have to make it work. And that's a good skill to have it as well. Just forcing yourself to figure out making a certain pose work, making a certain design work, facial expression work. You just have to make it work. Nothing is ever ideal, right? Or it's rarely ever ideal. Yeah, you always wish you had more time. All of that. I always wish I got more sleep, more coffee. It's never gonna be ideal, so you just gotta sometimes make it work. Yeah, and you can see that I'm having some issues here, but I'm still not giving up. I'm still trying to explore and push it, still trying to move forward with the design. I think I'm gonna make his lips kind of dark, actually. I think that'll look kind of cool. Slightly darker tone to it. Yeah, I'm gonna work with those lips and that mouth. Gave him kind of an underbite compared to where it was at before. Hey, evil raccoon. SA meaning South America? Cool. Oh, a piece of straw hanging out from the side of his mouth sounds good. That's a great idea, Margaret. Or a piece of a fish bone or something. Maybe he's picking his teeth, or yeah. I'll add that in later. I'll play with that later. For now, I don't want to do that because it's gonna, you know, like if I add that in right here, you know, I'm just gonna have to paint around it, so I'm just gonna keep that out for now, but for sure I will throw that in there later. Something like that. Hey Patrick, so you said I guess it's a big plus if you can work on marketing art too, so they can still keep you in the studio after the pre-production phase and not have to let you go. It's not like they're gonna let you go because of that. They usually, you know, studios have, you know, multiple projects going at the same time, and they plan for all that, how to use all their employees, right? So I don't, it's more that they could, yeah, in general, they could use you for many different things. And again, they just know having a wide range of abilities is always a strength. So yeah, that's what it's showing. And Patrick, you're also asking what makes a good concept art good. Yeah, it's I always say readability is number one. If things don't read visually, meaning like you're hiding stuff, like for example, you can't, if I don't put those the value range in here, you can't see the design of the leg even though it's in shadow, right? You just make it dark, or you leave things ambiguous, right? Like that hand or whatever, like the mouth, if I just left it kind of unclear, then things are not reading well, right? And if things don't read well, you failed as a concept artist, because the 3D artist cannot either they can't figure out what you drew, or you leave it up to interpretation, right? That's something you don't want to do either. If you leave it up to the 3D artist to decide what it is, the art director and the 3D artist may not be on the same page, because again, you've left it up to the viewer's interpretation. So that's going to cause a lot of issues, right? So you do want to avoid things like that. You want things to read clear as possible. Material too, like let's say this loincloth is leather, but I didn't make that clear, so it might look like cloth like cotton or linen or something like that, right? Again, everyone's not on the same page if it's not clear visually. So you want to make visual, give visual clarity in your concepts in terms of the material, color, all that. And of course, good design. You want good design sense. And a good concept will depend on the project you're on as well. So for example, if you're working on a mobile game versus, you know, a game on the PC, you want to, for a mobile game, really focus on the readability and the design for a character, for example, that's going to read on a small screen, right? You want to take that into consideration because if you're very detail oriented and you didn't focus on what it looks like zoomed out, the details look great, but zoomed out it looks like nothing, then again, that's not good concept art for a mobile game, right? So those are the things you got to consider as well. What it's for, what platform it's for. And in general, again, good concept art is, in my opinion, is something that's memorable. Like for examples, again, with character design, doing a memorable character design, iconic character design that people will remember and that catches people's attention, right? That people can connect to and relate to. Those things are important as well. Hey Ortiz. Ortiz is asking, when do you know that a concept piece is becoming too hectic? My art is very Eastern stylized and sometimes characters have a lot of accessories that don't do anything but are good to look at. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of I guess Chinese or Southeast Asian, that kind of art style focuses a lot on details, right? A lot of busy detail. And it misses, in my opinion, a lot of like strong focal areas, right? So up close, like at this range, it looks great. But when you zoom out on it, it's just all noise, right? And the viewer doesn't know where to look at. Almost, it becomes like a pattern design or on a textile or something like that. So you definitely want areas, strong areas that show off strong design, like larger shapes, medium shapes, and then include the finer details, finer design work within those large and medium shapes or large and medium designs, right? You want to incorporate and support those large and medium design work, right? Instead of getting caught up in the details. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's keep going. I'm getting distracted. Let's keep going with the head. I'm gonna keep asking questions, please, but I'm gonna look up only once in a while when I need to take a break or something, or you know, let's do that. All right, yeah, but continue asking questions. Yeah, like to be honest, guys, like it's quite a challenge for me to talk and draw at the same time. I'm still not used to it because, you know, I'm so used to just sitting there and with my headset on and painting, right, in my own mind. I'm in my own world, right? But when I have to chat at the same time, it takes me to like a different place, a different mindset, which makes it quite challenging for me. But I'm sure I'll get used to it. It's getting a little bit easier, but you know, it takes time. But it is really fun to answer your questions or to see your comments and things like that. All right, I'm gonna throw some eyelids in there, or the eye design finally. I gotta figure that out. Let's see how I wanna do this. Let's try a couple out. Let's leave that and try another one. Let's have him look down a little bit more in this one. Patrick, you're saying if I think of high memorable characters, Illidan, Arthas, it's a lot of pressure trying to do a character concept like those as a student. As a student, yeah. Well, as a student, there shouldn't be much pressure. I mean, in the workplace, there's a lot more pressure, in my opinion, because a lot of people are relying on you to create something awesome. It's at a very high standard, you know, of expectations, right? So there is a lot more pressure in the workplace, right? In my opinion. Again, like, it's still fun though. It's good pressure. It's a challenge, you know? So as a student, I mean, everyone's different, right? But for me as a student, I didn't really feel any pressure. I guess the only pressure I did feel was from myself when, again, that thinking where this is it, like this is gonna be an awesome portfolio piece. This is gonna be the best one I've done so far. If I think like that, then again, it set myself up for failure, and I learned from that. I learned to not think that way. Never fall in love with one concept, right? Or an image. So, yeah. So as a student, I would say, yeah, just explore. Again, quantity. In my opinion, as a concept artist, quantity is more important. Come up with so many different designs. Play around, you know, with designs. And then when you find something that you really like a design or concept you really like, then spend the time rendering it. Don't try to like render everything you do, or try to make every piece you do a portfolio piece. You know, like the way I did it back in the day was I would come up with, you know, maybe like 15, 20 different concepts, right? Like completely different concepts. And then I would choose maybe 5 out of those 15 to 20 to take further, like into developing as a portfolio piece. And then out of those 5, I might choose only 3, right? To actually put in my portfolio. So yeah, don't put all, you know the saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's really kind of what I would recommend as well with this kind of stuff. do a lot, different designs, explore different designs, and then commit later once you can compare all your different designs with the the other ones that you've done, and you can pick and choose what you want to focus on, what you want to scrap or leave at that stage, and what you want to further develop, right? But if you only did 5 designs, you're very limited in what you can do, right? You're stuck with what you got, basically. But if you did 15 designs, you got choices, right? Anyways, so I'm looking at these, and I think I like the eyes that are looking down. Looks kind of different from what I usually do, so that's what I'm gonna go for. I think I'm gonna give him some big earrings too. I don't know why, but I want to. Later, we'll get to that later. All right. So we'll have that eyelid catching some light too. I'm gonna readjust. That nose looks imbalanced, so I am gonna balance that out. Bring in some of that, the other side of the nostril in. I might have to cut this out a little bit, make that smaller. Let's figure that out. Yeah, I'm always adjusting things. So if you don't have like a clean line drawing to work off of, that's not the process that you took. The con of it is that you're gonna always be adjusting certain things because it hasn't been all figured out, right? The design or different aspects of the design. So I am constantly going back and adjusting things if I take this process. I personally don't mind it. I like, again, I like changing things. I like thinking like nothing's settled yet. That feeling doesn't bother me. Yeah, so this process works fine for me. I know for some people it would bother them if they're kind of changing things up all the time. So it depends. Do what works for you. It is nice once in a while though to have a completely finished, like clean line drawing to work with when you're painting, because you don't have to worry about anything. It's all figured out. All you gotta do is paint it. In some ways, it's a lot easier that way. But yeah, I don't know. This process keeps things interesting for me. I showed too much of that nostril, so I'm gonna have to cut that back. Whoops. All right, so that nose is getting fleshed out better, a bit more. So I have a better idea of what it's actually going to look like now, moving forward. Hey Tatum, when building a portfolio to show a client, how many images should I offer? Yeah, that's a question that I get asked a lot as well. Of course, ideally you want, I would say anywhere from 12 to 20 images. That's ideal, but I see that oftentimes students don't have that many images that are worth showing up, you know. So in that situation, what I usually recommend is to just show off 6 of your best work, 6 to 8. It's better to show just your best work than trying to fill a certain number, you know? Because yeah, if you show work that really isn't worth showing and you have like, let's say 3 really good pieces and then you show 3 really bad pieces, it doesn't make any sense to do that, right? Because they're gonna think it's a fluke, like you somehow managed to, you know, you got lucky 3 times, right? And the other 6, or I don't know how many, whatever images you have in there, are really what you're used to producing, right? So you never want to give doubt in, you know, the viewer's mind or the hiring manager's mind. You only want to show your best work. So in that case, again, in that case, quality is more important when you're showing off your portfolio. Quality is more important than quantity when you're showing images for your portfolio, because it's all perception, right? They don't know you, they don't know what you produce on a daily basis, they don't know the story behind your work. You're not there to explain anything to them, right? They don't know when you created this piece of artwork, you know, if it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, or 2 days ago, right? Even if you listed it, like the date, no one's gonna sit there and look at, you know, when you created this artwork. You're just gonna be flipping through it so fast. So again, showing your best work is what I would always recommend. So the quantity is not as important. But of course, again, gonna say it again, ideally you want about a dozen at least. That's what I would say, to show off a range of what you can do. I think I'm gonna give him some scarring around his mouth. I don't know why. I feel like it kind of looks interesting. Like maybe he was trying to eat fish that was like still alive and it kind of messed up the fins, or you know, the sharp fins on a fish kind of messed up his mouth. That sounds fun to me, so I'm going to try to show that off. Looks like he has some attitude. Looks like he's pissed off about something. Maybe he didn't have a great day of fishing. He just caught 2 instead of the 12 he expected. I think I'm going to add some scarring on his head too, just for fun again. I might not keep it, but I'm just going to play and see if that looks cool. Maybe something clawed at its head when he wasn't paying attention while he's fishing. I don't know, or maybe he was trying to catch something, some crazy crazy fish, right? Giant fish that attacked him. Maybe that's what he's mad about. Alright, let's reshape his head. I might have overdone it with all that silhouette, that bumpy silhouette on his head, so I might get rid of that, all those little lumps. Those scars are pretty deep if his head's that lumpy, so I'm just gonna get rid of some of that. I'm gonna give him a little cone head. Not a cone head, but a little bulb on top of his head just for fun. Sorry about the noise if you hear some noise in the background. I don't know what's going on outside, but it sounds like a tow truck or something like that, a big truck. Sorry about that. I'm going to bring his brow out a little bit more on the right side. It looks too short. I'm just going to grab that, warp it out. Yeah, maybe a druid was fishing in his water form, huh? I do feel like his cheek on this side is looking too small. Just make that a little bit larger too. Alright, cool. So now let's figure out the ears. Gotta flesh those out. The ears are a pretty large part of his head. So usually with ears on a human head, I wouldn't spend too much time on it, right? They're usually covered up by some hair and it's just not a significant part of the head design, right? But on a goblin, it becomes more of a significant part of the head design. So we want to give some attention to it. I'm going to bring his earlobe down so that the overlap between his trapezius or his neck area is clearer. Again, sorry about the background noise. It's getting pretty loud out there. I don't know what's going on. Gonna keep moving on to the other ear. That's actually kind of pointing into the background perspective. So we'll try to show that aspect off as well. There's a tangent going on here, so I want to make sure that the reed is clear between the ear and the cheek. So I'm just going to lower it there, just to make that overlap clear. And pull this out a little bit. Oh, you don't hear anything? Good. It's super loud here. Thanks for letting me know. Alright, so let's get this ear going on. I'm gonna fake the lighting a little bit here. You see that cheek and where the ear meets. I'm gonna keep this area here lighter, even though it probably would be in shadow. I'm just gonna keep it light so it reads well. And those are the decisions that you're gonna have to make when you're, doing lighting on your character. Because readability is key, you're gonna break the rules sometimes, or make the lighting fit readability. It's always number one. I'm gonna shorten that ear a little bit. Just grab the whole thing, or the tip of it, and shorten it. And we only have about 15 minutes left, so what I'm gonna do is, at this point, I'm just gonna try to focus on the anatomy part and the different parts of the body, just further developing it. Right now it's pretty rough, as you can see, so I'm gonna go back and try to add some character and uniqueness to this guy's figure and anatomy. And I think next week we'll continue with this guy. We'll add on, different accessories and things like that. Maybe an outfit. Maybe we will do that, just at least to show you guys, what you can do with once you have a figure down, like just the anatomy down, what you can do with that, like how to design costumes on top of an established figure. Alright, so as I'm looking to flesh out what I have here, I'm thinking about, again, the anatomy, the clavicle bone, And the reason really isn't because I'm like, oh, I want to show off the anatomy. I mean, that is part of the reason, but it's more so the overlap. I want to make the overlaps interesting to look at. I want to see the shapes that the anatomy can show off that are, again, interesting to look at, in my opinion. The light dark play, the shadowing, the shapes that the lighting is creating, right? Those are opportunities to show off interesting shapes and forms. That's why I'm looking for the bones and where they connect, the joints and all that, because they're, again, opportunities for me to show off visual interest. That's at least how I look at it. It does have to make, of course, sense anatomically, but you could break the rules again, like I say. You could bend the rules, and the only way you can really do that well is if you know your anatomy. So always be studying anatomy non-stop. There's no end to it. And the better you know your anatomy, again, you'll be able to manipulate it with ease, right? Or it'd be a lot easier. I'm gonna lighten up this trap area just because, again, its readability is not there. So I'm gonna lighten it up. It's getting lost in there. And all this stuff that I'm doing here, I'm not currently looking at reference right now, but of course it's things that I've picked up over the years of, drawing different figures and things like that, doing figure studies. You notice and pick up a lot of nuances, or the way things, muscles and connections look like, the way they can look like, and it's from a certain angle or position, right? So this isn't like, it doesn't just happen, right? It's through years of practicing, where you can just make this up as you're going, and it still would somewhat look believable, right? There are, of course, still times where I have to, or it's helpful for me to pull up reference, for sure. And you can see here I'm trying different things with the anatomy. There's so many different ways you can go about this. So I'm playing around with different options right now. And you can see that we started with a very basic direction for the anatomy and the pose, but now we are building it up. We're getting in there and really thinking about the subtle shapes that are being made here with the silhouette and the different muscle groupings. Even if it started off as a round belly, you know, we're adding in the abs, subtle parts, and less subtle aspects. Again, in my mind, it's making things believable. That's what I'm trying to do, more believable, selling it. And I'm also trying to keep in mind the lighting direction. Always trying to reference that, making sure I don't get caught up too much into the details, because that does happen to me sometimes and I have to go back and edit things. I want to make it clear that this arm is dropping. The shoulder and arm are dropping compared to the arm on the left side of the image. So I want to make that visually clear. So I'm dropping this deltoid a bit more, make it more obvious. I guess it was already kind of obvious. At least I'm going to make that shape a little clearer. Bring in the lats. Just cleaning up the silhouette here. Anyways, cool. Thanks for drawing and painting with me. We'll leave it at this point, and I think again next week we'll continue with this one. And I hope you guys all have a good week. All right, cool. Thanks. See you guys. Bye.